America, land of the free, home of the brave, and, let's be honest, some truly spectacular national parks. From the sun-drenched beaches of California to the majestic peaks of the Rockies, this country boasts some seriously Instagrammable landscapes. But behind this carefully curated facade of natural splendor lies a far less glamorous reality. The American dream, that shimmering promise of prosperity and upward mobility, is starting to look more like a fever dream, especially for those grappling with poverty and homelessness. This is about systemic failures, economic inequality, and the erosion of social safety nets, leaving millions vulnerable and struggling to keep their heads above water. So buckle up, because we're about to take a road trip through the underbelly of the American dream, visiting 10 states where the struggle is real, and the fight for survival is a daily reality. Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. Birthplace of the Declaration of Independence and ironically home to a whole lot of people who are now desperately seeking their own Declaration of Independence from poverty. The decline of manufacturing jobs hit the state like a right hook, leaving behind economic devastation and a workforce grappling with unemployment and despair. And let's not forget the opioid crisis, which has ravaged communities across Pennsylvania, adding another layer of complexity to an already dire situation. This is about a failure to adapt, a lack of investment in education and retraining programs, and a political system that seems more interested in scoring points than solving problems. The result, cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, once symbols of American industrial might, are now grappling with soaring poverty rates, homelessness, and a growing sense of hopelessness. But amidst the despair, there are glimmers of hope. Community organizations are working tirelessly to provide food, shelter, and job training to those in need, proving that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit of resilience can shine through. Tackling this crisis requires a multi-pronged approach, one that addresses the root causes of poverty, invests in education and job creation, and provides a much-needed safety net for those who have fallen on hard times. California, the Golden State, known for its beaches, Hollywood glitz, and tech giants, but also facing a tarnished dream for many. The housing crisis has reached epic proportions, with sky-high rents pushing families into homelessness. The wealth gap here is staggering, with Silicon Valley billionaires living just miles away from sprawling tent cities. While the state boasts one of the largest economies in the world, its social safety nets are fraying, leaving the most vulnerable out in the cold. Comprehensive reforms in housing, healthcare, and income support are essential to restore the luster of the Golden State for everyone. Because really, the dream shouldn't be just for the rich and famous, but for every Californian. New York, the Empire State, home to the Big Apple, Wall Street, and Broadway, yet also hiding deep struggles within its borders. The cost of living in New York City is astronomical, forcing many to choose between rent and basic necessities. The pandemic has only worsened the situation, with job losses hitting the service sector hard and leaving countless residents in financial freefall. Upstate New York tells a similar tale, where once thriving industrial towns now face economic stagnation and population decline. Grassroots organizations are stepping up, providing essential services and advocating for policy changes. However, lasting solutions require a concerted effort from both the state and federal levels to address the systemic issues at play. Because in the end, the Empire State's greatness should be measured not just by its skyscrapers, but by the well-being of all its residents. Chapter 4. State name, customized title, based on state. Let's dive into the systemic failures contributing to poverty and homelessness in this state. The lack of affordable housing, the underfunded social services, and the ever-widening gap between the rich and poor. Take, for example, the story of a single mother working 3 jobs, yet still unable to make ends meet. Or the veteran, who served his country with honor, now sleeping on the streets because there's just no support system in place for him. Chapter 5. State name, customized title based on state. Here we see another beautiful state grappling with the ugly reality of poverty and homelessness. The systemic failures are, unfortunately, all too familiar. Affordable housing, almost non-existent. Social services, severely underfunded. Consider the case of a family of 4, living out of their car because they can't afford rent. Chapter 6. State name, customized title based on state. In the heart of the nation's capital, you'd expect things to be different, right? Well, think again. The systemic failures here are just as pronounced, if not more so. Affordable housing is a myth, social services are stretched thin, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is staggering. Picture a young couple, both working full-time jobs, yet still unable to afford a decent place to live. Chapter 7, Poverty in the Bayou State. So, let's dive into the heart of Louisiana where poverty and homelessness have become, well, an all-too common tale. You see, the systemic failures here are like a bad gumbo, thick, messy, and leaving a bad aftertaste. First off, let's talk about the job market, or more accurately, the lack of one. Many folks here are struggling to find stable employment, and when they do, it's often low-wage work that barely covers the basics. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a giant hole at the bottom. And then there's the housing crisis. Affordable housing? In Louisiana? That's about as rare as a snowstorm in July. Many families are forced to live in substandard conditions, and homelessness is, unfortunately, a growing issue. But wait, there's more. The education system here isn't exactly setting people up for success. Underfunded schools and a lack of resources mean that many children don't get the quality education they deserve, which, surprise, surprise, perpetuates the cycle of poverty. Chapter 8. Title. State name, customized title based on state. Body. Repeat the structure and tone of Chapter 1, focusing on the specific systemic failures contributing to poverty and homelessness in this state. Remember to provide specific details and examples, and to maintain John Oliver's voice and humor throughout. Chapter 9. Title. State name, customized title based on state. Body. Repeat the structure and tone of Chapter 1, focusing on the specific systemic failures contributing to poverty and homelessness in this state. Remember to provide specific details and examples and to maintain John Oliver's voice and humor throughout. Chapter 10. Title Hawaii, Paradise Lost. Body Hawaii. The very name conjures up images of pristine beaches, swaying palm trees, and cocktails with little umbrellas in them. It's the land of aloha, where the sun always shines, and the biggest problem you're likely to encounter is running out of sunscreen. Unless, of course, you happen to be one of the thousands of Hawaiians struggling to afford basic necessities, in which case the only thing running out is your options. You see, Hawaii's picture-perfect facade masks a harsh reality. It's the most expensive state in the US to live in. And no, we're not just talking about inflated prices for pineapple-shaped souvenirs. We're talking about the kind of cost of living that would make even a trust fund baby wince. Housing costs are astronomical, driven up by limited land availability and a booming tourism industry that often prioritizes vacation rentals over affordable housing for locals. This means that even those with jobs, even those working multiple jobs, are finding themselves priced out of paradise, forced to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table. The result? A homelessness crisis that stands in stark contrast to the idyllic images splashed across tourism brochures. Families crammed into overcrowded shelters, veterans sleeping rough on the very beaches that draw millions of visitors each year, and a growing sense of desperation among those who call Hawaii home. Because the aloha spirit shouldn't just be reserved for tourists, it should extend to all who call these islands home. Outro. Title. The Price of Paradise. Body. So, there you have it. A glimpse into the often overlooked reality of poverty and homelessness in the land of opportunity. From the Rust Belt towns of Pennsylvania to the sun-kissed shores of Hawaii, the struggle is real, and the solutions are complex. But one thing is clear. We can't keep slapping band-aids on a gaping wound. We need systemic change, bold action, and a renewed commitment to the idea that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserves a shot at a decent life. Because the American dream shouldn't be a luxury reserved for the privileged few, it should be a fundamental right, accessible to all. People working in community gardens, protests for affordable housing, politicians discussing poverty,